All right, we're ready to rock and roll. Good afternoon or evening, I suppose it is now. It is 6:30 on March 25th, 2025. So we're going to call this meeting to order. Andy, if I could get the roll call, please.
Yes. Joe Murphy.
Here.
Robert Holland.
Here.
Brittany Layton.
Here.
Nathan Sturdevant. Jason Stein.
Present.
Chris McCray.
All right, if we can do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up on the agenda is to approve the meeting agenda.
Second.
Motion passes. Commission to consider approving minutes of the November 2024 and January 2025 meetings.
Motion to approve the November 2024 and January 2025 minutes as they're written.
Second.
Motion passes. So we have some new business tonight. We have case number STP-01-2025 Huck's Remodel parking lot expansion. We're considering approving the concept plans that include the site plan, landscaping, lighting, building elevations for a proposed remodel and parking lot expansion of Huck's Convenience Store at 322 East Broadway Street. Adam, are you ready for us? Yeah. Adam, do we need to vote on approving the minutes? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstain?
All right, good evening. For the record, I'm Adam Zakwakowski, the Planning and Building Director for the town of Fortville. So as Layden mentioned, this project before you tonight is a remodel and expansion for Huck's. So you're being asked to approve concept plans for this particular project. So just some background on this particular project. We'll go into some maps here, of course, momentarily. The property for the expanded parking lot was rezoned to community commercial in January 2024. And the home at 426 Walnut was preserved as part of the rezone. It was sold by Huck's to a private owner and is undergoing a remodel. Just wanted to mention that a replat has been filed and reviewed, which will consolidate old parcel lines, but since it's not creating any additional parcels, it's akin to a secondary plat and simply requires signature from the Plan Commission chair and myself when the actual document is signed by all the parties. And then secondly, note in December 2023, the BZA approved a use variance allowing expansion of a gas station use within the Broadway Main overlay. So all of that basically set the stage for what's being asked of you all today. So if we take a look at the area of 2023, the area in red is the area in question between the current gas station the expansion area on the grassy lot. If you take a look at this oblique area, you can see a little bit more clearly the lay of the land. And of course, we can always refer back to these if necessary. As I mentioned, the area that's inside of this red box, that was the area that was rezoned to community commercial in January 24. So it matches up with the commercial zoning along Broadway. If we take a look at the Google Street View, you can see the current conditions of the property. And then here's another street view image a little bit further south on Walnut, looking towards the expansion area. So if we take a look at the concept site plan, you can see how the project is laid out. They'd be adding some additional parking in the rear of the building, and the south side of that building also feature a customer entrance. Also, the remodeled building will have two entrances for customers. And then here's a Zoom version of that site plan. Again, we can always go back to that. In terms of the staff review analysis, the typical review items on the site plan for the zoning ordinance within the Broadway main overlay, this is what we would look at. In terms of access, they're adding a second entrance along Walnut Street. And as I mentioned, the back of the building will function as that second access point for customers. So there'll be a maximum 28-foot wide driveway exit onto Walnut. And they will be adding a public sidewalk along Walnut, not only in front of just Huck's, but they've agreed with town staff. They've agreed to bring it all the way to High Street and public right of way. In fact, if you take a look at the street view, you can see that people do walk around that area, so it'll be a nice benefit to the community. That sidewalk will be 5 feet wide. And also, in terms of access, the drive aisles that they're putting in would be a minimum of 24 feet wide as required. And they will have curbing along the parking lot, including along that public sidewalk at the back of the sidewalk, along the Huck's property to prevent vehicular access. Setbacks, of course, is something else that we look at. There is a 0-foot build-to line along Broadway. Doesn't apply in this situation since they're going southward. 100% maximum lot coverage is allowed per that Broadway main overlay. And then lastly, the setback along Walnut is a minimum of 15 inch of curb that would be required. So no issue there. If we take a look at one of the diagrams in the Broadway main overlay, it describes parking location. So they are providing parking in the rear of the site, which is in keeping with that Broadway main overlay. And in terms of the amount of parking that they're providing itself, everything is within range that's required per that Broadway main overlay. So for example, they're supposed to have a minimum of 6 parking spaces, maximum of 18. They've got 18. They've got a couple of ADA spaces as required. And so the total maximum is 20, and they're writing 20-foot number 20 of numbered spaces. Then next is the concept landscape plan. So we'll be doing quite a bit of landscape enhancements to the property. And if we zoom in a little bit closer, you can see that they're adding some landscape islands. They're adding some plantings along the alley, and then along the south side of the project, which we'll get into momentarily. So shrubs and trees on the site, including within the parking area. Foundation that's required. Obviously, there's a lot of space in front of the existing building, but To satisfy that requirement, they would be putting in potted plants in front of the north entrance. They're not using any invasive species. And arborvitae, and other trees and shrubs would be planted along the south property line for screening. And in terms of screening, although it's not required, an opaque vinyl fence will be provided along the south property line to provide screening for the adjacent residential property. And the dumpster will be screened, although it's not required in the downtown area. Some landscaping will be provided near that enclosure as well. Ordinarily, landscaping around that is not required downtown. Here is the concept lighting plan, which has a photometric layout based on the light fixtures that they're using. So it should be noted that they're not adding any new lights into the gas station canopy. So that would remain. And then you've probably also noticed too that they're going to remove that canopy connection piece between the main fueling area and the convenience store. And then here are the actual light fixtures that they're showing. Again, they're all pointed downward in compliance with the ordinance. In terms of lighting, the parking lights or lot lights are shown on the plan, and they would not exceed 20 feet tall. As I mentioned, they'd be fully shielded. All the building mounted lighting must point downward. They're mounted 10 feet on the building, and there's no light spillover onto southern residential property for the lighting plan, those photometric calculations. I did notice that along the alley, the photometric plan showed some numbers that were on the private property just to the west of the convenience store, which is a little strange. We can ask the engineer for some more for clarification on that, because they are planning on adding lights on the west side of the building near the alley, presumably for safety, but the lighting is all pointed downward. So I'm surprised that it would be that, that the numbers would be that high on the adjacent property. So we can ask for some clarification. In terms of drainage, because this project's under 10,000 square feet of altered land, no on-site detention or county drainage review is required. However, they will connect the new system to the existing stormwater system. And then moving right along to the concept building elevations, you can see the upgraded facade that they would be utilizing. It follows the newest aesthetic pattern that Huck's has established for a number of their new stores in various places. So it, again, it's a remodel and expansion. They're not going to be tearing down the existing building and rebuilding. The architecture, I'd say, features human scale and pedestrian accessibility. The roof mounted mechanical equipment will be screened from public view. They provided a diagram of that. Per the ordinance, at least 50% of the ground floor is masonry. They are using a minimum of 3 different materials, and they are putting glass on the main facade. And they are achieving building articulation with varied roof lines. The only thing worth noting on that too is we tried to see if they could bump out the front of the building a little bit by a couple feet to try to provide some more articulation, but the space there is so tight with the existing sidewalk and the cost that they would have to incur just to get it to bump out by a foot or so would be exorbitant. So in my view, the varied roof line still meets the letter of the ordinance. Even though, just so you understand, it'll be, all those materials will be on the same plane as you're looking at it from any side. In terms of community response, all the public hearing requirements were completed. That involved the typical publication of the public hearing notice in the Greenfield Reporter. The town posted a sign. I posted a sign out there. And the applicant conducted a mailing to nearby property owners. We had them put in a copy of the site plan, the elevations, landscaping, so that the public had a good understanding of what's going on. Not aware of any remonstrance at this point. I did speak with the property owner, Matt Juppy, that purchased the house at 426 Walnut. And he obviously understood that the project was happening. He doesn't have any issues whatsoever. The only item that he requested of Huck's, if possible, is if they could raise the height of that planned vinyl fence from 6 feet to 8 feet. Because there's a bedroom on the north side of that house, there are windows there, so he wanted a little bit more privacy. And when I talked to him, he understood that there would also be arborvitae plants on the north side of the fence that, once they grow in, they'll provide a nice green screen in addition to that. But his concern was in the interim. So if the request is if they could bring it up to 8 feet. Lastly, when I mentioned that to Huck's, they seemed amenable to it, but they wanted to double check to see if warranty that the fence company issues would still be applicable. Sometimes contractors experience 6 feet. They don't always do a warranty on it, so it sounded like they were amenable to it. So based on all that, I would recommend that you approve all of those concept plans, the site plan, the landscape plan, the building elevations, and the lighting plan. And if you're inclined to do that, then what they would do is create final plans that would be reviewed by town staff, and then we'd eventually issue a building permit that would include the site work and the actual addition and the remodel all in one fell swoop. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them. The applicant's engineer on the line. And certainly we can refer back to anything as needed.
Thank you, Adam. Does anyone on the Plan Commission have any questions for Adam at this time? All right, then let's go ahead and have our petitioner come forward. Do we have any questions for our petitioner?
So what is the status on checking for the warranty on that fence?
Aaron, do you happen to know?
Repeat the question, please.
What is the status on checking for that warranty on the fence?
The warranty on the fence?
Yes.
We were told by Adam that the remaining issue with the fence height at the request of the owner behind you is that it be elevated from 6 feet to 8 feet. And we are told that that's would be kind of subject to the warranty company from your fence, or the warranty from your fence company. Is that correct?
They have, the higher the fence, the more maintenance issues they have. They catch a lot of wind. And so we're using a shadow box type fence that's a privacy fence, and just the additional height of it gets to be a problem sometimes. And so that's the only issue I would be aware of. Michael Dobby with Huck's is also in this conference call. Michael, would you be able to answer that any better? Just let me restate that I think the fence, if it was requested to be 8 feet, I think they can do that. It's just that we normally don't make them that high because of blowover possibility, or they start to look unsightly and start leaning when they get too tall. That was the only reason we had it 6 feet to begin with. That was what was requested, and we thought that would be adequate to shield the light from the home. but I think they'd be willing to go to 8 feet if that is what's required.
So, real quick, since we're on that subject, Darren, you had mentioned, that the plan shows a 6-foot shadow box. I thought I saw something on there that was a vinyl fence.
It is a vinyl fence. That's correct. It's a vinyl shadow box fence is what they normally build, and that allows the wind to pass through better to not cause as much of a maintenance issue.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Do we have any other questions?
I know that Chris couldn't be here this evening, but he submitted several questions to be asked out. Do we want to share those?
I think it'd probably be in the interest of the public. That way, if there's any questions in the future, they know that these were already addressed.
Yep. I mean, I have them listed here. So a member of our commission couldn't be here this evening, but he sent an email with some questions to ask. And I think a couple of them have already been addressed, but some of the others are probably ones that could be answered pretty quickly. For instance, are the words fresh, fast, and friendly illuminated on the front of the building? That signage is going to be added to the front. Are those illuminated or are they just?
Those signs are not illuminated.
Okay. And then he had asked if it would be possible for the customer entry door on the rear of the building to have some side lights or more glass to make it, to distinguish itself as a more, as an actual entrance, to make it a little more appealing. I think I would tend to agree with that. That's a good question. Right now, it looks like it's just a single walk-in door.
Yeah, I would like to let Hucks answer that if they're on the line. I do not deal with the building design. And so, Michael, if you are able to speak to that, would you do that? I don't think we can hear Michael. Can you hear Michael?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, we cannot.
No.
I did receive a response from Huck's late this afternoon on these questions.
Oh, good.
I mean, I can relay it. Let me just open it.
I believe you sent it to me, Adam. I can pull it up and read those answers if that helps.
Yeah. Let's see. While we're waiting for that, would you like me to continue with some of these questions?
Go for it.
So he mentioned that the proposed drive entrance on Walnut. Let's see here. It's going to be this, I think we already addressed that. And are the existing rolled curbs going to be repaired at the existing drive on Walnut? You're saying we have some answers to these?
Yeah, answers
Okay. I apologize. I didn't know we had some answers to these. No plans to redo the curbing on Walnut Street other than a sidewalk and a 6-foot curb off the back of the sidewalk. Okay.
Can you all see Michael Dobby's response to the rear entrance doorway? He says that they do normally light the sides of the doorway.
He said at this time they're not sure we have the width for the exterior side light, the glass panels. I would like to know if that's something that they could look into. He says he wasn't sure. I don't know if he can hear us at the moment, but Adam, is that something you can follow up on?
Well,
And it can become a vote, I know, but I don't know if that's going to be a sticking point for the commission or not, but.
yeah, I sure can. So, let's see.
Yeah, I believe in those answers, he said that the fresh, fast, and friendly would not be illuminated.
Yeah.
So it sounds like on the side light window in the back of the building, at first they were saying this afternoon that they didn't think they had the width, but Michael had just said that it looks like they do. So perfect. I would say to keep it simple, if that's something that you'd like to see, make a condition to that effect.
Sure. Thank you, Adam. And thank you for submitting these responses to these questions as well, because I know Chris had many. One of them pertained to if there's going to be a bike rack, where's it going to be located? There is, it's going to be on the front of the store. Just for the public to hear some of these questions. We've already talked about any lighting to the west. There's not going to be anything that's impacting or affecting the existing alleyway on the west side of the property. Then they said, no, there's not going to be anything impacting that that's not already. All right, I think
I do
that's
have
it.
I have a quick question about the lighting on the west side. When you study that lighting plan, it looks like that concentration on the west side that spills over in the adjacent property is just two little sectors there, that reach over that 20 lumens. With it being such a small impact, is there any way we can adjust that lighting concept on the west side to just spread that out so that it's not so, and I mean, that's, if you look at the map, I mean, that's pretty adjacent, that's pretty close to that neighbor's property right there. I'd hate to have that much light shining into my side of my house from a new development.
Yeah, we can adjust those lights. It's because there's two lights located real close together there that increases
Yeah.
the intensity. And we can redirect those lights just a little bit to reduce that. It will not take much to do that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, do you see, Darren, what I was saying about how, if we look at these numbers here,
Those two spots.
yeah, 20, so I don't know if that's a mistake or if it's coming from another light that might be on the alley.
I can answer that. The program that we use, all of the foot candle intensities within the boundary are based on the surface elevation, like the parking lot elevation or asphalt elevation of the alley. And when it gets outside of the property line, it starts calculating the intensity at distances above grade. And so the intensity you see on the edge of the alley, like the 33.5 and the 34.5, that is actually 5 feet above the ground level. And if you look at the ones further out, the 20.1 and the 23.6, that is actually 10 feet above ground level. And so it does that so you can see how much light you'll be casting upon your neighbors, which is what you're using this for. And so, and also you can look at the bottom and see that because of the vinyl fence that we placed down there, it puts the zeros in the program at 5 feet above ground level. Yes, right. Just right along the edge of the home that's still there, so that privacy fence blocks the light at 5 feet above the ground level, and there's 0 foot candles along that edge of the home. And so that is the reason for those higher intensities over there. It's not really measured at the ground level. Once it leaves the property, it's measured at heights above the ground level.
Gotcha.
And so we can redirect the lights to fix that problem.
Yeah, I think given the position of the adjacent home, that'd be preferred. Because that is, those two figures right there sit right on that neighbor's side yard, or the side of their house there.
I made note of that.
Do you have any other questions or comments? So if not, I'm going to take a step back and just invite the petitioner to state their name, address.
I am Darren Helms, Landmark Surveying, and I'm speaking on behalf of Huck's Convenience Stores in Martin and Bailey.
All right, if we don't have any other comments or questions from the commission, then I'm going to open this up to comments from the public. If so, please come to the podium and state your name and address. All right, do we have any government officials tonight who would like to make a comment or question? All right, then typically we have a rebuttal from the petitioner. Is there anything we should know about this project that we haven't covered already?
I don't think so. I think Adam was pretty thorough in his presentation.
Okay, do we need to have some discussion among the board?
So what I'm seeing right now is the homeowners asked for the fence to be raised an additional 2 feet behind the store. We've got some concerns about the photometric measurements on the west side, and we'd like to see the lighting plan on that side adjusted to lower that a little bit. And then we're also being told now that the rear door should allow for the side lights. Is that correct?
Right.
And those would all have to be conditions
They were-
if we wanted to include them in this.
Yeah, I would, if you're
Yeah.
inclined.
Right, looking for a motion. We have the concept site plan, the concept landscape plan, the building elevations, and the lighting plan. Do we need to do these separate if we're gonna put conditions on them, or should we do them all at once?
Let's do them separate.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the concept site plan as presented.
Do we have any discussion?
So that would be
With no conditions?
with no conditions or with the conditions?
Well, my assumption was the landscape plan would include conditions related to the fence and then the lighting plan as it relates to the spillover onto the adjacent property.
Well, I think we have to.
Do we need to approve conditions for each individual one?
Well, you would make
Okay.
a motion with those conditions as is, but in the matters of expediency,
Yeah.
given how, in the past, sometimes we've asked for conditions and those conditions don't always make it through to the final say. I really like to see conditional elements included in the final plans before I vote in the affirmation. Since we only have 4 here tonight, if we're going to attach conditions to this, I can say my vote will be nay.
Hmm.
So since we need a unanimous quorum for this, I would actually, I'm open to making a motion to suspend this until the next meeting.
What's your reasoning for voting no again? Just because there's only 4 of us?
No, it's just because, like I said, these conditions in here, I'd like to see in the final plans already.
If we build them into conditions, they'll have to do them before they can move forward.
They don't have to.
Well, they do. I
Yeah,
mean,
they would.
any conditions or stipulations that you attach to a project, we do look at those as part of the final review as part of the permit. So I'd highly recommend that if that's the route you want to take, is it's commonplace to do. We've done that here for years. And it's a good way of getting it on the public record as to really addressing different minor things that may come up, either based on what the public has to say that we don't always know, or last minute things. So no, I'm very confident that we'll make sure those are followed.
Let me amend my motion to read that. I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept site plan with the 3 conditions. The first being the amended lighting plan to show that the west side has no impact to the adjacent property, the 8-foot tall privacy fence at the south of the property, as well as the lighting by the door, the new door on the south of the addition.
Do we have a second? So what's this called, Adam?
Motion dies.
Motion dies.
I'll make a motion to approve site, the plan, case number STP 01-2025 with the conditions of the side lights being added to the rear door, the photometric lighting being adjusted on the west side of the building, and then the privacy fence that they've verbally agreed to, I guess, to be 6 feet tall.
Do we have a second?
You mean 8?
Oh,
No, I said 6.
Yeah.
That's what they agreed to already, but that was a condition that you made, Adam. They have some concerns about the 8.
I see. Gotcha. Just fair enough.
any need for discussion? If not, I'm looking for a second.
Just a question. So the opposition to the additional 2 feet of fence is the warranty concern?
Well, I think some of it is based on what they're saying. When you get a fence that's 8 feet
Sure.
tall, it starts to blow over. I mean, you get
Yeah.
taller planks, you get more leverage around the top. And since this is vinyl is plastic, I was kind of looking it up over here, if I'm understanding right. I mean, eventually that can start to warp, sway. It can look
Sure,
pretty
I agree.
unsightly after a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
that's the concern I have for that. I respect the neighbor's
Yeah.
desire for the additional privacy. I'm just
Yes.
concerned that in getting what they want now, they're gonna regret that later.
Right, I agree. I agree.
That's like I said,
Yeah.
I like the idea of a higher fence if it weren't for the fact that I do worry that fence after about 5-10
Mhm.
years is gonna look
That was
pretty,
my only
pretty
difference.
bad.
No,
your
I
motion.
yeah, I understand. And Adam, to clarify or confirm what you said earlier, this property owner purchased that residential home from Huck's with the understanding this development was oncoming?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we even discussed that the last time about how close this was. I
Yeah.
mean, it practically backed up to their
Right.
right door.
We do have a first motion. We need a second.
Need a second.
I will second the new motion, the active motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
Motion fails. Should we make a motion to table this until the next meeting? We do not have quorum.
We're going to have to make a motion to make it to the next meeting. I disagree with that, but it's the only course of action that we have at this point.
I would agree. Do I have a motion to table it?
Motion to the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Any abstain? Okay, motion carries. Case number STP 012025 will be tabled until the next Plan Commission meeting for the end of April.
May I say one thing or ask a question?
Sure.
I guess I understood from what just transpired that if I make the corrections that you're requesting, that it would be acceptable to all? Or was this a difficulty with there's a person missing, and we would like that person to be there?
But the issue is we had 2 missing members and we need the 4 votes to
Yeah.
move it forward.
It has to be
It's-
unanimous.
And
Yeah.
so,
You need a majority, not of
Sure.
those present, but of the board.
correct.
Okay. Okay. All right, that sounds good. So we can make these modifications that were requested before the next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any board comments? Any staff comments?
No, nothing for me other than, we, just as a commentary, having done this for a long time, is I wouldn't be afraid of conditions on a project. It's typical, it's normal. They do follow the conditions. I would also say that we always want to, obviously, we want to look out in the public interest. That's first and foremost. We always want to balance that with efficiency too, in terms of processing projects. So what I'd recommend in the future is for different projects is not to be afraid of stipulations. We do follow them. They're obligated to follow them. So it also gives the board flexibility as well when reviewing a project based on comments that may come up. So we want to be able to try to move things efficiently too. But other than that, if you have any questions on any projects or anything, certainly answer those.
Hey, Adam, can I hop in real quick? This is Tyler Oakes with Bose. But just on the note of conditions, just as a general thing, they're prescribed, I believe, both by ordinance and by state statute. So they are binding and they would be required moving forward. So just want to reiterate from a legal standpoint, everything that Adam has already said and agree with that.
Thanks, Tyler.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
To
adjourn.
adjourn at 7:12.
Do I
Second.
have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
abstained? Any nays? All right, this meeting is adjourned at 7:11 PM. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
All right, thank you.